The banging on the door was so forceful it shook the frame. Trevor Gaines glanced up from his desk, startled. Spread before him were county maps, highlighted property lines along the shoreline, and a notepad filled with scribbled notes. Across the table, State Attorney General Roland Pike adjusted his spectacles and offered a faint grin. "Expecting visitors, Trevor?" Roland asked calmly. Trevor shook his head. "Not a single one. This place is supposed to be peaceful." The knock came again, more insistent, followed by a sharp voice, "Open the door. Homeowners Association matter." Trevor's jaw clenched. He knew that voice instantly. Judith Carraway, the HOA president, a woman who acted as if she ruled the entire neighborhood, despite her role being merely an elected volunteer. Trevor's cabin, nestled on the banks of Lake Keowee in South Carolina, wasn't just a retreat, it was his hard-earned haven. He'd purchased it outright after years in logistics, dreaming of fishing weekends with his brothers and late-night campfires with his nieces and nephews. Yet, ever since he signed the deed, Judith had found reasons to intrude, nitpicking everything from his mailbox position to the shade of his deck furniture. Now, she'd escalated to pounding on his door with law enforcement in tow. Trevor opened it warily. There stood Judith, gripping a folder tightly, her lips pursed in a stern line. Flanking her were two uniformed deputies from the Oconee County Sheriff's Office, hands resting on their belts, expressions unreadable. "Mr. Gaines," Judith began in her usual sharp tone, "we need to address your repeated violations." Trevor didn't budge, one hand steady on the doorframe, the other relaxed but firm. "Violations," he replied coolly. "This is my land. I know my rights." From behind him, Roland Pike's voice cut through, clear and commanding, "As do I." Judith faltered, peering inside, her eyes widening as she recognized Roland Pike, South Carolina's Attorney General, a figure whose presence shifted the entire dynamic of the moment. For the first time, her confidence wavered. "Attorney General Pike," she stammered, I didn't know you were here." Roland leaned back casually in his chair. "Clearly. Now, Ms. Carraway, I'm eager to hear why you've brought officers onto this man's property. Explain it to me." The deputies exchanged a quick look, silent, clearly unprepared for this turn of events. Judith regained her composure, flipping open her folder. "Mr. Gaines has made unauthorized changes to the shoreline, extending his dock beyond allowed limits and installing non-compliant lighting." Trevor interrupted, his voice steady but firm. "Every modification I made complies with county regulations. I verified it myself, and as you can see, I've been discussing these matters with the Attorney General." He nodded toward the documents strewn across the table. Outside, the soft cry of a loon drifted over the lake, a sound that usually brought calm but now felt like the backdrop to a brewing storm. Roland stood, smoothing his suit jacket, his gaze locked on Judith. "I've seen plenty of neighborhood disputes," he said evenly, "but when an HOA president drags law enforcement onto private property without justification, that raises serious concerns." Judith swallowed, her folder suddenly seeming heavier. The deputies shifted, now aware they were caught in a confrontation far beyond their routine duties. Trevor didn't gloat, though he could have. He simply stepped aside, letting Roland stand beside him in the doorway. Trevor broke the tense silence with a calm, resolute statement, "You thought you could bully me, Judith. Instead, you walked into something you weren't prepared for." The words lingered, and Judith's face flushed red, her authority unraveling before her eyes. Yet this was only the start. What followed that doorstep clash would send shockwaves through the entire community, exposing not just Judith's motives but the delicate balance of power in neighborhoods everywhere.